There comes a time in every journal maker's creative journey when they decide to tackle making an altered book, and I am no exception. Technically, this is not my first altered book, however, it's the first one that I'm making on camera. I did try making one a few years ago, and that one was a total flop, but this time I feel like I know what I'm doing better than I did the first time around. Today we're starting a music-themed journal, and I mentioned before that it's inspired by my son-in-law's grandfather, Poppy. Poppy had a long career as a music minister, and even now the whole family is very musical. Many times when they get together at holidays or family reunions, they have singing times, and Poppy leads the singing, and very often Mimi, his grandma, will play the piano to join along. I've wanted for quite a while to make a journal that offers Poppy's service and ministry, and so I'm very happy to be able to finally make one now. It's going to include a lot of hymns and worship songs combined with a masculine vibe. Well, hi everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Marcy, and I offer up videos that provide inspiration and encouragement for the junk journal and paper crafting communities. If you're crafting along, now's the time to gather your supplies. So get yourself settled and we'll dive into the video right after this. So thanks again to all of you who voted in the poll online or who put your answers, your votes in the comments on the video where I asked for that. The results were pretty surprising, and it was really fun to watch as the votes really took off in one direction, and then after a few days, very slowly, it started to go the other way. And in the end, the Reader's Digest book won by one vote. Crazy, right? So this is the book we're going to be using today. And I picked it because of this kind of a masculine look on the cover and the pretty colors. You can see the spine is a little bit junked up there. But this is the book we're going to be using. So for those of you that might be a little disappointed that the hymnal didn't win, don't worry, because we will do an altered hymnal at some point, and it will be a little bit of a different process because the book I'm using today has glued in pages, whereas the hymnal has pages that are sewn in, so the process is a little bit different for the two, but it is still possible to alter a book with sewn in pages. But before we get into that, I want to share a sweet surprise from one of my subbies, Peggy. Thank you, Peggy. So when Peggy heard that I was planning to make a music-themed journal, she very kindly sent me a package of goodies. Now, I could have waited to open it on camera, but did I do that? No. I ripped right into that package on my way in from the mailbox and was very excited, so couldn't control myself. I had to just dive in and see what was in there. So here's what she sent. And in her note, she mentioned that she likes to go thrifting, and sometimes she passes those things on when she finds somebody that can use those things. So she sent some of this really pretty trim, really pretty. I love this. I'm gonna bring it up to the camera. Isn't that gorgeous? And then she found a couple of these, and these are definitely older. You can tell by the price tags on them when they were in the store, but they're complete, which I found very surprising. And you know, it's got all the safety pins, and then this has all the snaps, so nobody ever used it. So I think these are really cool, and I may even try to scan these. I don't know yet. I just thought of that, so we'll see. But aren't these neat? Very neat, so thank you. And then I'm gonna do this one next. She found this really pretty applique. And so what I think I'm gonna do is include this one when I make the complementary journal to this one. This one, of course, is in honor of Poppy, but I also want to do one in honor of Mimi called Mimi's Prayer Garden, and I'd like to use this in that journal too. So thank you, Peggy. And then she found some tally cards that have piano and a rose on them. And then she also found some of these piano flashcards, which I think is cool. Very cool. So these will be going into our journal for sure. And these, and I know, Peggy, you thought these might be a little too girly, but I think honestly, if we just grunge these up a little bit, I think they'll be fine. And I'm a little envious that you found tally cards, because I never seem to find them in the thrift store. So I don't know, maybe people in Idaho just don't play bridge. I don't know. I doubt that very much. We just don't have tally cards in the thrift stores. And then she found this really cool tape measure, and the ink is pink. Isn't that neat? So I love these older style ones that are flexible and they're not plastic, and they are not easy to find. So thank you. I'm delighted that you found that one too, Peggy. And then she found some really pretty hankies. And this one has an R on it. So this makes me think of my mother-in-law. Her name was Roberta. And so I think I will probably be scanning this one too, so I can use it over and over. And then we have another really pretty blue one. I'm going to open this one all the way up. Isn't that gorgeous? It's kind of this Art Deco design. Beautiful. It's so pretty. And then she sent me this one here with this gorgeous crochet trim all the way around the edge. Isn't that pretty? And it's in beautiful condition. It's in perfect shape. So, you know, I could scan this and then reduce it down and make like labels or something. That would be really cool. And then you could write on the white center. Peggy has an Etsy shop when I was snooping around online, and it's called Little Goldie's Books. It should be going across the bottom of your screen right now, and I will also link it down below. She makes the cutest journals from vintage Little Golden books, and she uses book rings, if I remember right, to attach them. They're really cute, and she uses vintage Little Golden books, so check out her shop. I was just really delighted when I started going through her shop. She just has so many cute things, and you may have inspired me to make a journal. So we'll see what happens there, but I definitely enjoyed looking through your shop, Peggy. So thank you. I appreciate you thinking of me, and I'm excited to add some of these things into our journal. So I'm going to set these aside. So like I said, today I'm using this Reader's Digest book to make our journal with. Now, in prepping for this video, I rewatched a bunch of videos on making altered books. And as I mentioned, there are two methods, and it really depends on whether or not your pages are glued in, like this one, or sewn in. It is possible to alter both kinds, but the methods differ slightly. So this particular book has the pages glued in. I will try and show you this. They're just very tightly glued in along this piece of fabric, and then that is attached to the spine of the book, okay? And that is one way that you can do it, but you want one where the glue and the pages are tight, okay, and it's not coming apart. And this one does not have any loose pages. In fact, it's very, very tight, so that's a good one. Now, the alternative to that is I'm using this hymnal. I've already taken it out of the jacket, but the alternative to that is where the signatures have been sewn in. Can you see that? Let me get in with the camera where I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so the signatures are gathered together in their little bunches and then sewn in and then sewn to this strip that is then glued into the book. I've got all kinds of things falling out of this. And you'll know that because when you look at the spine, you'll see that they're all grouped together in little bunches, and when you go to the center, if I can find one that will show me good enough, hold on. Let me find one where it will really show you what I'm talking about. Okay, that took me a minute to find you a good example because some of these were bound so tightly I couldn't get the book open wide enough. But in the middle of a sewn-in signature, you're going to see the threads where they have the stitching, and those are what you work around. So in this example, we're using the glued-in pages. And then later, when we alter the hymnal, I'll show you how to adjust for sewn-in pages. I'm following Crafty Irina's method, and she's kind of been the go-to guru for several years on how to make an altered book. Irina has 2 videos on her channel that show how she preps and glues her altered book pages, and I will link those below for you. In addition to our altered book, I also have several paper stacks here, and I just kind of went through my stash, things I've just been saving for a while that may have a masculine theme or a faith theme. This one is Poetic Postage. It is really old, so I know they do not carry this anymore. It came from Hobby Lobby. I will be using pages from the hymnal you just saw and other music pages. And then again, an old stack from Hobby Lobby called Faith. And I had purchased this way back because of the colors in it. And it feels a little more guyish. It also feels very it just has like deep, rich colors to it. I don't know what the word is that I want. Insert your descriptive adjective here. And then I also have this paper stack that I coffee dyed this. This is one from Walmart called Vintage Treasures, and I don't know if they still have it. I think they do. So I had gone through this stack and coffee dyed pages from it. So they also have kind of a guy look. And then in between I inserted other cool sheets that I found when I was out thrifting. So I think with all of these different elements, we should be able to make something pretty cool that will make this feel more masculine. And then I also have this stack here. These are all pages I have found when I'm out thrifting. These are all scrapbook pages that I've found. Now I do dig. I will waste quite a bit of time digging through the stacks to see what I can find. So really between all of this, we should have a good amount of papers and things to work with. One more thing we need is glue. And then I also have my scissors. I have a bone folder here for smoothing glue out. Crafty Irina just uses Elmer's glue, like school glue. And I have this bottle here that's a nice handy size. It's a brand new one, so this should do very well for us. But this is the Aleene's Clear Gel Tacky Glue. But you can really use any kind of glue that you have. She did suggest that you use a wet glue though, and not double-sided tape, and not two-sided like Scotch tape, because it does not hold up over time. The stickiness falls apart. It loses its stickiness. And then last thing, I'm not going to show it to you here, but I decided to sit down and make a list of what elements I want to include in this journal, like how I want to fold the pages and different things. My ambitions are probably greater than my ability or the time allotted, but we're going to give it a whirl. I have several things that I wanted to remember to do, so we'll talk through them as I go along, and we've got lots to work on. So let's get started. We'll see how far we get today, and then if we need to continue on in the next video as far as prepping pages, we will do that. So the first thing we need to do is start tearing out pages. Now, before you guys jump in there and start madly ripping your books up, stop, there's a process. Okay, so the first thing, oh, look it's got an ex libris. Is that how you say that? Ex libris, or is it ex libri? I don't know, I don't speak Latin. So the first thing you want to do is save the first 3 or 4 pages at the beginning of your book, and then also at the end of the book, the final few pages. Part of that is because this is glued here, and this is glued here. So these all maintain the integrity of the spine. Okay. One thing you want to be sure of is that since we are pulling pages out of here, that's going to affect the structure of the book and how stable it is. Okay, so we want to do everything within our power. Ooh, dusty, sorry. Everything within our power to keep the integrity of the book and keep it from going sideways. Because right now it's square, it's solid, it's a nice block. But we don't want to endanger that because we're taking out pages. We need to find a way to keep it stable. And so part of that is hanging onto these first few pages and skipping by them. Now it's possible that there are pictures in here we'll want to keep, and I forgot to preview it to see. So let me go grab some paper clips real quick. I forgot to bring those over. So we have our first few pages. This is very thick, it's throwing me. 1, 2, 3, 4, and here we are. We're keeping those. And then I would say that the first thing we want to do is probably glue these two together. Now, watching a lot of videos, you know, everyone has their own method. And I think depending on what I want to do on each page, I may want to glue 2 together first to give it more structure, and then count those once I've glued them as a single page. And this will make sense as you go along. But you take out the first 3 or 4 pages at the beginning, and then and I want to glue these 2 together because I don't like that picture, and I think it'll just help it stay thick. So essentially once I've glued these are my first page I'm working with. And then you're going to tear out 6 to 8 pages at a time. Sometimes people do 10, sometimes they only do 4. I decided that I was going to do 8 because there are a lot of pages in this book. So here we go. Hold your breath. Yep, okay, that one went well. 3, 4, I don't think we need the brick, girl. 5, 6, 7, 8. And you can tear out some of this nastiness that's sticking up in there. You don't have to pull it out a lot, but just kind of clean up the edge. You don't have to like get down in there, because as Crafty Irina said, you do want to keep some of the ends of those pages in there, because that's what helps the book stay together. So she made a good point for that, so I'm gonna believe her. So I have my first page, we tore out 8, and then I have the next page. We're gonna flip that, and then we're gonna start our next section. So here's the first page of it, and we're gonna tear out 8, and it's a really good idea to make sure there's nothing in there that you're wishing you could keep. I don't think this book really has very beautiful pictures in it or anything. There's a cool map, we'll see, but I don't think there's any pictures that I necessarily want to include in this book, that leave in, I'm saying. So I think we're just gonna go ahead and rip, okay? So on this section, first page, then we're gonna rip 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then this is going to be the second page, and we're going to glue those together, okay? So what I'm going to do is kind of identify, I think the first couple, we're just going to have these be pages, just straight pages you could write on or whatever, and then we'll start getting into the fancy stuff. So here's our first page of the next section. We'll tear out 8. Okay, those are torn out. And now the next page. And what I would like to do with this is I would like to make an angled pocket. And since I don't really want to look at her, this is the perfect page to fold down into an angled pocket and put her on the inside. Okay, so those two, once I glue them together, this is going to make a pocket this way. And as you see, as we go along and glue, all these little bits and pieces, the raggedy edges, are covered up by where you glue. Okay, so those two are going to be an angled pocket. And then the next thing I would like to do, so that's those two. Here's the first page of our next section, and 8 more pages we're going to tear out. So we've got our first page, tore out 8, and here's our back side, our back page is how I should say that. But what I would like to do with this is I would like to make a long pocket. So we're going to fold it like that, and these are going to get glued together to make a pocket here. Now the next thing I would like to do is just have 2 that I glue together. And you don't even have to tear out in between. You can just leave them together like that. And the reason why is because for some of those things, I have plans for them, and I need the double thickness to accomplish that. So here's our first page, and so on and so forth. Okay, there's 8, and this is pretty junky in here, so I am going to tear out some of it, because those are pretty well stuck in there. So that's what you do. You just find your first page, tear out the ones in the middle, and then identify your last page. So the way Crafty Irina explained it was you have your 1, you tear 8, you save 1, you save 1, you tear 8, you save 1, you save 1. Now I am going to take a minute and jump ahead here. As I hold up the book, you can see the gaps now where I've torn out pages, and that's what makes the space in your book so you can put in tags or do extra decorating or whatever. and it should keep it from getting too bulky, because at the end of the day, once this is all taken apart and decorated, you don't want it to be any wider in the mouth or along the spine than it is right now, because we're not going to mess with the spine. We're leaving the spine how it is. So that's the main difference between a book where you are sewing in the signatures or versus like an altered book like this, where we're keeping the spine intact. We're not taking the whole book apart. So on this particular one, I want this one to be a side pocket. So I did not bring my little rounded punch. So I'm just gonna write side pocket right there and clip it so I know I'll be punching right there. So my note will be gone. So we're gonna go through and do that. So as you continue through the book, like I said, you see the pages disappear and you get rid of a lot of the bulk of the book. Now I want to do, one of the things I definitely want to do is go somewhere towards the middle, because I want to do a double pocket spread, and I do not want you. Ooh, that's pretty though, huh? Okay, so I'm gonna go maybe a little more from to one side or the other, probably this way. Ooh, there it went. Crunch. And I'm gonna make this what I'm calling a double pocket spread, because I want to do that angled pocket, but I want it to come down this way, like this, so that I have like a V on both sides of the page. And then, being more ambitious, I was wondering if I can fold, make like a double fold, so that these two pages are folded lower and the next two pages are folded higher, and then the back two pages are the back. And I honestly don't know if I can do that. So, but what I do know is that I need 6 pages in the center of the book, right? So these 2 pages I'm going to fold, if I can. I wanted to fold this down lower, shorter. I don't think I can do that though, can I? I don't think that's gonna work, because there's only, I mean, you only have so much room to work with where it will actually fold. Okay, so I'm just gonna fold that one in. This one I'm gonna match up against it and match the angle. And try to fold it as much as possible exactly the same. It's slightly off, but we're gonna live with that. And then these 2 pages become the back. Okay, so there's I only used 4 pages here, but I wanted to find the middle of the book because I wanted it to open up like this in the middle of the book. And the other thing I thought perhaps I might end up doing then, to get my extra pocket here, is to run across here, but I don't think that that's going to work, to run an extra page all the way across. We'll see, because maybe it will with scrapbook paper. Those are wide enough. Because I would really just kind of like an extra pocket here, and then have the slanted pocket, because I really wanted the extra pocket to go like this, so you have this layered effect. But I think I'm going to probably have to do that with scrapbook paper. So I'm going to clip these 4 pages together so I don't lose my place. And then as I'm ripping, I know that that's the center of my book, and that I want to keep that the way it is so that I don't run into it. So when I'm tearing, I can make adjustments on how many I tear out when I see this coming up. Another thing I wanted to try that I saw, I actually saw Stephanie at Coffee Paper Scissors do this, and her inspiration came from Tina at Shabby Dabby Doodah. And then also I've seen Joey DeFee do this, but they paint on the pages. So I'm trying to keep some together where I can paint on the pages. And I need sticky notes, but I'm just gonna write myself a pencil note right now. And for that, I think I would also like a double thickness, because I just think it's gonna need that stability when you go through. Okay, so this will be, those 2 will get painted, so I'm going to glue them together. Here's the first part of the next section, and then we're going to rip out 8. Okay, so there's those 8, and we're kind of back to where we started. Kind of the same idea of what we wanted to do first. So what I did first, I'm just going to copy it and do it again here. Okay, so I want to continue ripping out through the book, and then I will come back and we will do some gluing together. Okay, we're back. I've got all my pages ripped out. Got a nice little pile here that it can be made into things later on. And I think I've got it how I'm going to want it to be, all the ideas that I have in my head and things that I wanted to include in here. So here's what it looks like from the top, and I went through and paper clipped and wrote myself lots of notes so that I can remember what on earth I'm doing. It weighs considerably less. These pages here are much heavier than this book. It's very lightweight now. So I am going to get started on the gluing. I did make a few changes from what I had already shown you. As I was going through to adjust the pages, some things just worked better a little bit differently. So the first one being that these first 3 pages, I'm going to glue all of them together. And then the next 3 pages, we're getting glued together. This one with this lady there. So I had ripped out 8 and I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, but I decided I just want all 3 glued together as plain pages. So that's what I'm doing with that. As you can see, I wrote myself lots of notes. And then in the middle, the center part, I identified that with a sticky note here. And I readjusted it. I actually moved it, I think, back this way, so it's more in the middle. And then I had kind of decided what to do with the pages surrounding, and now I've changed my mind again. So yeah, that's the way I operate. I do need to glue this onto the side so it covers up these edges. And I'm trying to avoid, same thing over here, trying to avoid putting weight, too much weight in the center or on the pages here. I just don't want, I don't want it to be unsupported or the items that I'm gluing down to be too heavy for the pages. So what I did was basically reassigned where the center is going to be. So here's those 2 folded angled pockets I showed you. Just moved over a few more pages this way in the book. And then I want to have 2 pieces here. And I was watching another video while I was off camera here by Lori Marie Jenkins. She does a lot of altered books. It's very important to her that the pages be strong enough. So she really advocates for having pages glued together to give the book more strength. And I have to agree with her on that. I think it will just make the book better, not having ever actually done one. What do I know? But for me, I think it would just be nice to have that extra strength and know that these pages are not going to come apart. So what I have planned out is that these 2 pages here are going to get glued together. Then this pocket will get glued to it. And because I wound up with, when I went back to reconfigure everything from the center out, I'm ending up with an extra pocket here, which I'll glue on this side as well. So how I'm going to paper clip that is beyond me, but when I get to the center here, at least I kind of know what I'm doing. I also didn't want to keep repeating. I got kind of bored with repeating the same old, so when we get to this section right here, I'm going to do something a little different. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and glue the whole thing on camera because that's going to be boring as toast. But there are a few things that as we go gluing through that it's important to keep in mind. And the one thing that I heard from Crafty Irina and then also from watching Lori Marie Jenkins is that you want to glue starting from the back and going back to front. Otherwise, your book doesn't lay straight. Apparently, you get kind of some warp or some curve in the pages here at the front if you start gluing at the front and working to the back. So they suggest you start at the back and glue to the front. And then Shannon Green, another long time YouTuber, mixed media artist, she suggests that you alternate and go back and forth. So I'm going to follow the advice of those people who actually know what they're doing, have been doing this for a long time. Let me start my timer so I don't go over too far.
I don't want to take too long just gluing, but we'll get started. And then next time, when we come back, we'll start decorating the pages and probably painting.
So here we go. Wow, my neighbor out there has very loud subwoofer, louder than usual. Okay, so here's my Aleene's Clear Gel Tacky Glue. And now I've heard don't glue in the middle, just glue around the edges, and then I've seen people glue all the way across. And then Lori Marie Jenkins, she just uses Mod Podge to glue her pages together. It appears that all of these techniques work. These pages, I didn't rip anything out in between, so these are going to be keeping the integrity of the structure of the spine, because apparently it is real easy for it to go kind of crooked. So then, like Crafty Irina, well, Lori Marie Jenkins says just shut the book, and then your pages should line up. And Crafty Irina says just take your hands and smooth it. Go to the top of the page while it's like this. And then you can take a bone folder or a spreader of some kind and smooth out the glue. I find Mod Podge to be really messy, so I'm just gonna stick with this wet glue. And then since we're gluing 3, and this is cracked a little bit right here from when I opened the book, too tight, too much, we're gonna put some glue down in this crease. And that seems to be the one thing, as I was watching, that seems to be the one thing that all of these long-term experienced altered bookmakers say is to be sure that you're getting that glue down in the spine, because that is what really helps it. See, I'm closing from back to front, just closing the book on the gluey page, and then just working it up this way. But getting that glue into that spine is what is going to help with the integrity of the pages and making sure that everything sticks together and that they don't pull out of this spine here. Because remember, it's all just glued. So anything we can do to strengthen that glue is going to benefit and help the book stay together long term. Now, wow, that's nice. It's got a nice structure to it. The other thing I decided to do, I guess I need a little bit more right here. So maybe I can just use my spreader and it'll just ooze into the gap. Get all that glue in there. The other thing I've decided to do for this book, which I would not probably do in every book, but because of the look that I'm wanting to get, is that I am going to ink around the edges of the pages. So I'm not going to start doing that right now because the glue's too wet and I don't want to make a mess. Okay, I'm going to grab a wet wipe to have handy, and then I also have a rag, a dry rag, to just kind of wipe things off. Gently, gently. Don't want the pages to stick. I'm trying to get all the little gummy pieces off. It gums up, you know, like a rubber eraser, kind of. There you go. Get that off of there, and then it allows everything to stick better. Okay, so that's those 3 pages. So trusting the experience of the gurus once again. We're gonna glue do the back first and then do the front. And see how these were already glued together, so it's not gonna take a lot. In fact, Crafty Irina just says, of course she made a lot more pockets in hers. Her altered books were pretty much just pockets, but she just said all you need is glue down the seam and then one on each side. But I'm not putting pockets on these particular pages, so I feel like glue in the middle, and then we close the book. Glue in the middle will only help strengthen it and hold everything together. Hopefully this doesn't shake the camera. I apologize if it does. Okay, and then we're going to glue 3 pages together, so let's grab this third one. But yeah, it is kind of cracking right there, so I think doing whatever we can to keep the pages and the book all in one piece is probably for the best. And close the book. I guess if you combine the methods of 3 people who really know what they're doing, you're bound to have some measure of success, right? So already this is going better than my first attempt. My first altered book I made, somehow I confused myself and I got off. And plus I was using a book of poetry and I just really wanted the poetry to show in the book, but what I didn't take into account was the fact that when you start folding the pages, then the images and the poems don't actually show. So then I got so confused. I was like, well, let's just put this away for a while. So, okay, there's those 3. And now this, we're going to do the same thing on these 3 because they need it. And then basically what you've done is taken 3 pages out of the book and glued them together to make a single page. And so that just gives you real strong pages to work with. And then as I'm gluing ephemera and pockets and things on here, it will allow the book to stand up to the weight of whatever we're putting on the pages. This particular Reader's Digest also, the pages are not as thick as some of the older ones. So I think reinforcing them and strengthening them is really only going to help. Now, because I have all these paper clips in here to help me, it's kind of hard to just lay this down and smooth it, but normally you wouldn't have that problem if you didn't have all the paper clips in. And then here's where we took out the 8 pages. So we will put glue down the seam right here. I guess that's a seam. I don't know what else you would call it. Crease? Crevice? And then we'll put glue around the edges. I don't want to go too close to the edge because the glue spreads. So, but we do want to have the edges get glued shut. And then shut the book. Let them grab each other. And then come back and smooth it all out. And just like that, we have 2 pages assembled at the front and 1 page assembled at the back. Like that. I'll take all these out, take out my little sticky notes. Okay, so this one is also the same thing. I want to glue 2 together and make what I'm calling a painty page. So that's where I'm going to paint my pages together. And where I was going to do that, I didn't tear anything out in between. So we will just quickly glue around the edges. So there's lots of good folks on YouTube that teach you how to do these altered books, and I actually found a book on how to make altered books, but it's got a lot of the more detailed things, like how to make hidden cut out in the middle of the pages and make little cubby holes to hide things and all kinds of stuff. So I haven't really looked at it a lot yet because I haven't actually made any kind of altered book yet. So, although technically I suppose all journals are altered books to some extent because you're taking the book and changing it in some way, so you're all altering it. But the basic, when people say altered book, what they really mean is that you've taken this thing and torn out pages and then left the spine intact. Okay, so there's that one. Glue 2 together, and then I want to hurry up because I want to get to the other pages that are interesting. So here I did tear out the pages in between these two. Like I said, I had to do some adjusting when I went, as I was going through and I went back to look at what I was doing. I did make a few adjustments. So this one I did tear out the pages in between, but for the most part, where I have two stuck together, I did not do that. I don't think, to be honest, that it actually makes that much difference, probably one way or the other. The nice thing about taking pages out is then, of course, you're reducing the bulk, so that when you do decorate these pages, then it doesn't make your book too fat. The end result is not so fat that you can't just shut the book like normal. Okay, let's go on and do this one. This is where we folded the page over. So we're gonna tack down our corner. And then we're going to, here, have another dab. Then we're gonna glue the crease. Now, Crafty Irina's books, did I already say this? She pretty much just did a lot of side and top loading pockets in hers, and then she covers the pages with scrapbook paper or what have you. And so hers were pretty basic, but I suspect she probably made other kinds. It's just that the video that we all kind of refer to, she's just showing you a very basic way to do an altered book, but it's very useful because she explains the technique and she shows you how she glues the pages and stuff. Okay, so there's that one, and now we'll go to the back, and I will do the corresponding page. So what I did, just so I didn't get super confused myself, and so I kind of felt like the book had some continuity, I basically, what I did in the first half, I tried to duplicate in the back half, working from the cover to the center. So as you can see, we had 3 pages glued together, and then 2 pages glued together, and then this angled pocket on each side, and so on. So pretty much what I did at the front half of the book, I just imitated in the back half of the book, so that hopefully it feels like, you know, it doesn't feel like just a hodgepodge. Okay, and closing the book. And then Lori Marie Jenkins, she even goes and she says she sits on it. I don't know if that's literally she sits on it or if she just weighs down the book, but after she gets everything glued down, she just gives it some pressure, essentially, which will probably be very useful because I've got all these paper clips in here. So it's making it kind of hard to just push down. Okay, we've just got a couple of minutes on this part, so let's do this one. What I folded it this way so I could figure out where I was folding it, but I really want this to fold to the inside, and hopefully it's relatively straight. See, I feel like already my book's getting a little cattywampus. Okay, so this we're going to glue to the inside, and that just adds strength to the pocket. So this is just making a long pocket. Oops. And then we'll glue down the crease. And like Crafty Irina says, not quite to the ends. And then we'll tack down these 2 sides. And then we'll close the book so that it lands where it's supposed to. And then we'll smooth it out. And there we go, we have a pocket right there. So let's go to the front and do our corresponding pocket up here. So here's our angled pocket, and now here's this pocket. And as these paper clips leave, it's definitely making it easier. One thing I did when I added some of these long folded pockets this way, I folded them here, and then the next batch I folded them up further along the page so that the pocket comes out a little further, just to make it kind of different. Not because anyone told me to, but honestly, after about 3 or 4 times of doing the same kind of thing, I was like, okay, I'm bored. So I just wanted to find something more interesting, and admittedly, I have not watched a ton of videos on how to do altered books, so my resources were slim, but I don't know, there's something about this book that I just want it to be, have a lot of special elements that I might not normally, that I haven't normally included in a book up to now. Okay, so there's our long pocket. And then I'm back here. Okay, let's do this one really quick. I decided I would put in some side pockets that load, you know, big side pockets that load along the side, but I do not want to put any top loading pockets, and the reason for that is because I just feel like this is so deep that things are just going to get lost in there, and that's just me. I know a lot of people do a side pocket, they do a top pocket, they'll do one of these, they'll do one of the angled pockets, and for me, I just thought I personally would like to not do any top loading ones because I don't want to mess with making tags that are big enough to go in here and stuff. So okay, so what I'm doing here is, because I want this pocket to be strong, I'm gluing 2 pieces, and then I'm gluing 2 pieces, and then we'll glue them together here and punch them as a pocket so that our pocket is double strong, okay? So I have 2 or 3 of these. There's one at the back, and then I think there's 1 or 2 towards the middle as well. And again, where I'm just gluing 2 pages next to each other, I didn't tear them out. I just left 2 pages. We're going to glue it together. It's kind of hard with all those paper clips in the way, but. And I didn't tear out in between. Maybe I should have. That would have probably been a good smart thing to do too, but oh, it looks like I did right here, so okay. I got a little off, I guess, on my counting the pages, but what I had done was readjusted when I did the center and moved it over. I kind of had to do some readjusting then back the other way to make sure that all the pages worked out. So it does take a little bit of time, but I don't think it's terrible, you know. Now let's close you up, give you a press. I don't think it's terribly time consuming. It's just the process, right? Okay, that was a painty page. Here's my pocket page. Okay, so there's. So the only pages we won't be doing today are the ones where I'm needing to paint. I'll go back and, well, actually we're not doing a lot of these, are we? Because I'm not doing the whole book on camera, but I'm gonna paint, you know, off camera, so you don't need to watch paint dry. Okay, so here's 1 page for our pocket, which was 2 sheets glued together. The other page for our pocket, which was 2 sheets glued together. Now we're gonna glue them and make them an actual pocket. And I am seeing places where the corners are not quite sticking down, so I will take care of those after I've gone all the way through the book and taken care of this. Sorry, we're jiggling. I'm sorry. The phone camera does have image stabilization on it. Okay, so this is a side pocket, and I think I might leave my sticky there just so I know what I'm doing. And then I've got my punch. And I don't know about you guys, but I like a nice a nice wide notch to pull things in and out of. So I like using ovals more than circles typically. And let's see, we need to get all that. We're pretty close to center there. Get my little note completely gone, and voila, there we are. Okay, so the key is to getting it glued up enough so that when I separate my two halves of my pocket, I'm not trying to go between these two sheets or these two sheets. So this is definitely going to need to dry a bit. Okay, so now let's head to the middle really fast and glue this one so that we can have that figured out before we go. Okay, so we have our two center angled pockets to make a double pocket spread. And then I want to have a double strength pocket that I'm gluing to. And then, because of my moving the center and readjusting everything, I'm going to then have a long pocket glued to the back of this. So I'll have an angled pocket on this side and a long pocket there. Hopefully that all makes sense. So let's start by gluing the center. So here's where I ripped out the 8. And 8 sheets on this book was really good. I did not look at how many pages it had before I started doing this, but you can check in a minute and get a pretty good idea. I probably should have glued these two back pages together first, huh? We'll do it now. Yeah, so we are having I'm filming this on Memorial Day Monday. It's very cold, very rainy. Still is looking like March out there. Off and on. We've actually had such a nice wet spring. I'm not complaining because every drop of moisture just helps when it gets to be summer. And I'm not a big fan of forest fires. I don't know about you guys, but however, we always seem to get the smoke from California, so we all need to pray that God is generous with the rain in California, because it all drifts up to the PNW and we breathe it all summer long. It's terrible. So, some years it's been like that since 2012, and the reason I remember the year is because that was the year my daughter graduated from high school, and we were going to take her to college, and of course school had just started, but it was so smoky in this valley here you could not see your hand in front of your face, and that was like the first really bad year where we started getting the smoke from all the California fires, and I was so glad to leave town to take her away to school because it was awful. And then when I came back, it had mostly cleared out, but I mean, it was thick. Now, it hasn't been quite that bad since, but we're getting pretty bad smoke almost every single year. So if it would kindly rain in California, then the rest of us in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana, and even up into Canada, actually, you don't have to breathe their stinky smoke. I think that was the same year, though, that they were also having fires in Alberta. And so we were getting smoke down from the north and smoke up from the south. And you can't sleep with your windows open. You can't breathe if you have asthma or any kind of lung issues, COPD, or just prone to, weak lungs. I want to be careful here. Hold on. I started gluing before I was ready, before I was thinking about it. Yeah, just the air quality. My dad, when he got older, had a condition called pulmonary fibrosis, which is basically the adult equivalent of cystic fibrosis, and you develop it in your later adulthood years, and it's due to environmental influences, whatever you were breathing in. And he was a woodworker, so he was breathing in lots of sawdust and fumes, and you know, he was raised on a farm, so he was breathing in dust and hay and all kinds of things his whole life. So it's a genetic recessive gene, so no guarantee that that anybody else will get it, but it's just the combination of his parents' genes, and then he wound up with several siblings had the same problem. And I did not really realize how bad or how common breathing issues are until he got his pulmonary fibrosis diagnosis, and I started working in a school and just saw how many kids had asthma. Like I literally knew one person with asthma my entire life. So all that to say that I'm really glad it's raining outside. Okay, there's my center. I do have a small tear here that we'll have to address, and you know what, I should not have glued those down yet because I needed to decorate back here, but oh well, we'll figure something out. Actually, I shouldn't be gluing any of these down because I need to decorate back there. Anyway, you get the idea. I will continue to go through and glue where I need to, and then in the next video we will come back and decorate. So if you have any questions, please leave them below, because I'm sure I left a lot of things out or didn't explain them quite properly. All right, guys, if you found value from this video and you'd like to see more from this channel, please consider hitting the like button, give me a thumbs up, and that helps my channel grow, and that also lets YouTube know that you're interested in what I have to offer. It allows YouTube to recommend my videos to other people. It lets everybody know that, hey, this is a channel worth watching. So I appreciate it when you give me the thumbs up. And also, if you'll stick around to the end of the video, you're going to see some more recommendations that I think will interest you. If you've been watching for a while and you're not a subscriber yet, please, please, please consider hitting the subscribe button. And you can find that located right down in the bottom left-hand corner, just below the screen. It's in the description box, and then that puts my videos in your feed as I upload, and it gives you more suggestions from this channel. And then lastly, if you want to hit the notification bell, that lets you know every time that something is happening on this channel as it happens. When we were at my son-in-law's graduation in Portland, and that's now been about a month ago, we attended a dessert for all the new alumni. So son-in-law was graduating, and there was a dessert for the graduates and their families. And we went, and we had seven people in our group. So tables seated 8, and as we were all kind of looking for a table that would accommodate all of us, we wound up at a table with a lady who was there by herself. And I said, hey, would you like to make 7 new friends? And she said, sure. So she very kindly let all of us sit with her. And we quickly befriended her. She just fit right in with all of us, with our family and our group, and just a very nice lady. But in talking with her, we learned that she had returned to school as an older student. Both of her sons are full grown, and they have graduated from Multnomah. And then she decided to attend school and to return back to school. So she had spent the majority of her career in a corporate setting, and she actually right now works for Dave's Bread, if any of you are familiar with that. Yeah, it's headquartered in Oregon, and so she works for them. Yeah, so that made us love her even more. But anyway, she decided to pursue a master's degree in counseling. And so in the short time that we all spent with her, a couple of hours that we were there at the program eating dessert, we bonded. And I told her, her name is Valerie, and I told her I would give her a shout out when she was ready to open her counseling practice. And so her target date was June 1st. And so that will be, I'm recording this video, so that's just going to be in a couple of days, about the time this video uploads, okay? So I decided that I would love to give her a shout out. I was just very impressed with her personality, and her just the kind of person that she was, and how easy she was to chat with. I'm going to put her information here on the screen as I talk, and then I will also have it linked down below in the description box. But our new friend's name is Valerie Calhoun. The name of her clinic is Salt and Light Counseling, and she will be practicing in Estacada, Oregon. So if you're in that area, you can look her up and actually go in and receive services. But she's also going to be holding virtual sessions with clients, so you don't have to live there to have her as your counselor. Valerie says that she does family counseling and individual counseling, but that her heart and her special emphasis, her area of emphasis, are in the area of trauma. That's just something that is very important to her, is dealing with people who have had trauma in their lives. Now, I know that sometimes in life we all deal with things that are much bigger than we can handle ourselves. And for a long time, mental health and counselors had kind of a stigma attached, especially if you grew up in a church setting. But luckily, we are getting smarter and realizing that people sometimes just need extra help. So I'm here to encourage you that if you are struggling with your personal situation, with your feelings, your emotions, whatever situation you're in, or especially if you've experienced trauma at some point in your life, it's okay to talk to somebody about it. And actually, it's necessary to talk to somebody about it, because the more you push it down, the more it's going to come out later. And it's not always going to be in an acceptable way. So if you're wanting to find someone to talk with, typically that person could be a friend or a pastor, or maybe someone who's a mentor to you in your life. But sometimes you just need a neutral party, somebody that doesn't know you or your situation, and you just need somebody that's outside of everything, who can talk things over with you and give you things to work through and just help you deal with it. So I'm here to tell you that there's no shame in seeking help from a mental health provider, a counselor, or a psychologist, okay? And let me say it again. There is no shame in seeking help from a professional counselor or psychologist, especially when you realize that you're struggling with something and you are not going to be able to deal with it on your own. So you may not have a safe person to talk to, and sometimes our friends or our pastors, church members on staff or wherever may not have the experience that's necessary to counsel you on your situation. Occasionally you may need something that's a little bit more meaty, that has more depth to it, or a little more practical than having nice little sayings and platitudes tossed your way. So if that's the case, I hope that you would think about reaching out to a mental health provider. And in this case, I am giving Valerie a shout out because she's starting her new practice. She is a warm, kind, intelligent, caring woman, and because of her willingness to offer online sessions, it doesn't matter where you live in this country, she can still meet with you in a virtual session. If you do decide to reach out to Valerie and contact her, would you kindly let her know? You don't have to tell me, because that's between you and her. Please let her know that I gave her the shout out, as I promised to do. And linked below, as I said, I have all of her contact information, her email, her phone number, and her name is Valerie Calhoun. All right, so I hope you guys will really think that over. Maybe it's not you that has a struggle. Maybe you know somebody who's struggling, and obviously we care about our friends and family, but sometimes we just literally don't know how to help, and thankfully there are people in this world who do. So I can't tell you enough, avail yourself of their services. I don't know how the financial piece of that works out. That would be something you discuss with her and your insurance provider, obviously. She just really impressed me as a person, and as someone who was not flighty, she was warm and kind, but she was serious. She was a woman of substance, right? So I tell you what, if I needed her, I would definitely consider calling her in a heartbeat. I definitely would. Okay, So that is it for today. Got my shout out for my friend Valerie. Remember to check out the other links below for the videos I mentioned, and then also for Peggy's Etsy shop. Swing by and take a look at what she has to offer. And now let's move on to our inspirational thought for the day. Today's quote is a bit of a long one. I found it in the hymnal that I showed you earlier, and I kept a copy for myself, but I really like what it says, and I am going to include a copy of this in this journal. It's by Martin Luther, and it's talking about the gift of music. He wrote, "I wish to see all arts, principally music, in the service of Him who gave and created them. Music is a fair and glorious gift of God. I would not for the world forego my humble share of music. Singers are never sorrowful, but are merry, and smile through their troubles in song. Music makes people kinder, gentler, more staid, and reasonable. I am strongly persuaded that after theology, there is no art that can be placed on a level with music, for besides theology, music is the only art capable of affording peace and joy of the heart. The devil flees before the sound of music almost as much as before the word of God." So those were Martin Luther's thoughts on music and its importance in our lives and in our faith. And so I thought I'd share that with you because I really liked it. I thought it was a fitting quote for this journal as we're going through. I haven't told you yet, but I'm calling it Poppy's Praise Book. And that's because it's after Poppy, and he was a worship minister, and it's going to have a praise and worship emphasis. So Poppy's Praise Book is the official title of this journal. All right, guys, that's it for today. And until next time, my friends, be inspired and do something creative today. And don't click away yet. Be sure to check out the next screen for more videos like this one. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.